What's goody good people?
Hi, happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday, man. Um, it's still May, which is positive. It hasn't been that hot, which I appreciate. We had to go to a graduation very early in the morning. Shout out to P3. Congratulations.
Best graduation I've ever been to in my life.
Quick,
It was
honey.
43 minutes. I mean, 43. Not 45, 43 minutes. Granted, there were only 14 graduates, but
It's
still,
an independent school. Okay, so
43-minute graduation.
easy peasy.
I may never see it again in my lifetime, but I sure did enjoy it this
Easy
morning.
peasy. And shout out to the entire class of 2024, wherever you're graduating from, because some of y'all was doing school and things in the pandemic. So, again, we always salute
Yeah,
y'all.
this whole 2024
extra, okay? You started whatever schooling you started 4 years ago. You was in the middle.
In the pandemic.
We was in lockdown, okay? So shout out to y'all. We are going to be just slightly unpacking because we really want our guests to come back. If you saw our episode last week, we had our first dynamic mother and daughter duo interview with Joy and Iris Thomas.
A good time was had by all.
A good time was had by all. It will be up at some point. I'll take the live down, and then you'll just have the edited joint, the regular joint. So,
and we hope the sound will be a little bit.
Yeah, we
better
hope the sound. I hope the sound will be a little better.
Glitches.
We was experimenting. We was figuring out in real time. So bear with us, okay? Bear with us. So today we're going to be talking about some of the things that we noticed and stood out to us about that time, about that conversation. So that's what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about sisterhood and othering. If you clicked on this video, those were the two topics that we felt like really stood out to us.
I bet you might be wondering what othering is. We're going to talk about
They know what well, let me say, y'all might be wondering what othering is.
Yes.
Millennials know what othering
That was my first time hearing it when you brought it up. But I love to learn, so here we go.
We know it very well. It is our existence. And in sisterhood, if you know a Black woman of any persuasion, that's a real one. Let me go ahead and put that out because we always say all skin folk ain't kinfolk. But sisterhood to African American female experience is very important. We have to see each other through trying times all the time with our support networks, systems, and communities. Black women are typically raising Black children. So the community village pool that is necessary for that, we also talked about. So we're going to be delving into that a little bit more as well. So if any of that sounds intriguing, fun, cool, and something you own, then you should stick around because this episode is for you.
We'll be back. Hi, I'm Pam Williams, a mother.
And I'm Jessica E. Williams, a daughter. And this is a mother and a daughter truthful chat, where we discuss our 35-year multi-layered relationship.
We've been through so many ups and downs. Not only are we family, but we're business partners in the high-stress world of event planning and production for short films.
We've also shared the same therapist for over 10 years. What some people call codependence, we call collaboration.
So join us as we share stories from our lives,
have candid conversations with other mother-daughter duos,
and shed light on the roller coaster ride of being a woman while raising a woman.
Still a super fan of the intro.
Anywho, it has held up.
It's held up. We may be doing some new branding things soon. We're learning.
We're out here.
Okay, we out here. Okay, in real time. Okay. Anyway, welcome to Truthful Chats. Designed to get us to Truthful Chats, which is our weekly podcast. Designed to get us to the ongoing practice of creating generational wellness. I feel like I haven't said this in a long time, which is weird because it's the opening. Anyway, Truthful Chats,
set a version,
weekly podcast designed to get us to the practice of creating ongoing practice of creating generational wellness. If you have never heard that term before, that's because we have made it up. There is something in the description box below that will give you a trademark term. So I just want to point that out. So if you hear anyone else using this in the street or saying things that you just, and they're not saying Pam and Jess said, you know what to do. Anyway, So here at Create Generational Wellness, the brand, right? We usually have a theme of the month. Truthful Chats is where we unpack that theme just a little bit. And May, we've been talking about all things generational gaps. We did some research with the help of the AIs, because the AI has helped us all. They haven't turned on us yet. It hasn't quite turned into a science fiction movie, but let's just say we're in the first act. Okay. And again, all creations are just a reflection of the creator. So if you feel like your AI is gonna go bad, think about who created it. Anyway, so yeah, we've been talking about generational gaps. There are all sorts of generational gaps. I think we talked about that in the intro episode for the month. And last week in our interview, we were talking about it in relation to baby boomers and millennials, but not just us, our family that have the same divide, baby boomer millennial divide. And we talked about a lot of things. You can go and watch that episode again. Hopefully, the sound will be improved by the time we get the new joint up. But today we're talking about generational gaps when it comes to sisterhood and othering. Okay. As we were having a discussion with Iris and Joy, we really were just talking about the impact of, well, they were talking about a baby boomer growing up experience. Okay. What it was like to actually live through what most of us just
Read about.
watch on documentaries or see in the movies that Hollywood chooses to make about the civil rights movement and Jim Crow South and all of that. Baby boomers are the people that actually lived through that. Black baby boomers. White people, you lived through it too, but you know, y'all was on the side of the oppressor, so it probably wasn't as bad for you. Racism hurts everyone, but I'm just saying, in hindsight, you probably like, it wasn't that bad. This is where you have people that can say, make America great again. They was clearly on the great side, okay? They felt like this is our time. We really out here doing something. Oh, we didn't do this. That's a great place to clink, I think. Okay? The
What are you
pressure
drinking today?
just water. I'm hydrating.
I'm drinking Active. And if you don't know about the Active, you should know
It's
about
great.
the Active.
We'll
It's
tell you.
great.
We'll tell you about where to get it.
It's a pick me upper. I've had 2 cups of coffee today,
works
which
well.
have not picked me up, but I'm depending on the Active because after this, I still have more work to do. Amen. Because
Amen.
I'm a baby boomer and we do that.
They do the most. Anywho, so they were talking about growing up in a time most of us only like again read about, think about in a horror movie type scenario.
Like a Get Out or a Us,
Oh,
whatever that other
yeah,
movie was
yeah.
scenario.
Yeah, especially the Gen Zs and the Gen Alphas. You know, the millennials. We have some racial trauma. We done been through some things, but not like the baby boomers. Okay. Um, unless you live down south, then maybe some of those things you have
Still
seen.
going through.
Not gonna lie. And then we talked about othering, right? And this we're talking about it in a racial context, but it's literally I don't have like a textbook definition for you. Boo-boo research on my part. But it's really the idea of like there is something that is the normal or dominant way of being,
In a
and
society.
and then there is the others. So othering, and we this could be about anything, right? Uh, abled people are the norm. Disabled people are the others. I don't mean that in no slight way. I'm just using it before we get into the real stuff. Okay.
That's real to do.
For real. In a capitalistic society, okay, making money over caring about the people is normal. And anybody that does anything the opposite of that, communism, socialism, authoritarianism is kind of like on the capitalistic side as far as I'm concerned. But anybody that does anything to put the people first is othered. Okay. If we want to take it to the patriarchy, okay, maleness, not saying that females are needed, but how men perceive and go through the world and do things like that is normal. And sometimes the female way of air quotes, a female way of doing things in terms of care and compassion and not bulldozing through everybody's feelings. Not to say that all men are like that. I'm just saying that's just like a traditional. When we talk about like male as in the patriarchy, we're usually talking about white males who are affluent and conduct themselves in a particular kind of way. So anything that doesn't line up with that heteronormative, right? All of that stuff is considered normal, and anything outside of that is othering. So when we talk about baby boomers,
Everything was
blackness,
other to us. There was
blackness,
nothing that wasn't othering.
blackness was other. Everything in their existence was othering. We could get into the immigrant discussion, right? There's a level of othering that white people have done to other white people. They was really doing it in Europe. This is what they don't tell you in your history class. If you're not paying attention, in Europe, white people was not really clicking up like that. There's factions of white people in Europe to this day that don't mess with each other, okay? If you look at Queen Elizabeth and what's the Irish queen, they did a whole movie about it. I can't even remember what it's called. It's Elizabeth and
Mary Queen of Scots? I don't know.
yeah, them is real life, true to life, God as my witness, blood cousins. The Irish and the Brits was not messing with each other. They was not, okay? So all of this, when we get to America and everybody's like, we're all the
melting
same.
pot.
It's a melting pot. We're all the same.
Until it's not.
Lies and deceit, okay? The poor whites and criminal whites
Which is most of who came over here.
that were sent to
Let's
the
just
Americas
say.
and Australia. Okay, Australia was like the boondocks. Okay, if you got sent to Australia, you was wildin'. Okay, the poor whites that were sent over here. Okay, came with whatever views they felt like they came with. They killed many people. They stole us. This we know. Okay, but let the Irish come over here and the Slavics and sorry, I don't mean to say vitriol. Russians. I mean, pick a group, okay? That you can't readily identify as exotic white, okay? When you come over here and you have whiteness, then sorry, I'm probably saying all the wrong things. I don't care.
Ooh, girl.
Exotic white. You have a cloak of white. Jewish immigrants, okay? Y'all started y'all was killing people over there, okay? That were Jewish. Y'all came over here and was like, we all won under whiteness at some point. It wasn't like that in the beginning. Watch Ragtime or any of those early 1900 situations. That's where you get gangs in New York. Like, that was beefing, okay? But then once they all discovered, if I just decide that I want to drop my Jewishness,
we better get together because
my Russianness, or drop my so-and-so and learn how to assimilate, I can make this skin color thing work for me. And take a different last name. I don't mean to step on toes. I'm just telling truths, okay? So then they're able to
chat.
Well, then they're able to weaponize skin color, right? You could Slavic, Russian, Irish. The Irish can't really hide though. The accent is very thick. And the Scotch, y'all can't really hide that. The accent is very thick and the red hair, okay? But if you can figure out what the whiteness overarching, you too can jump in. Anyway, so this is where you get a hierarchy of colorism, all the things in between that are where you get the black codes, Jim Crow, and everything since then. The new Jim Crow. Okay, pick a thing. Everything is in relation to blackness being the bottom of the totem pole. Color wise, we're not talking.
Are we still talking about this othering thing now?
Yeah, we're still talking about othering. And then you just go up the pole, right? But all of that is in relation to otherness when we talk about race, which is whiteness, right? Anything that's not white and heteronormative and rich is not right, okay? And so a lot of what baby boomers were living through, growing up under, and still trying to make something of themselves is what we would all now call a racial caste. If you've seen Caste, shout out to Ava DuVernay, the Schoenberg Foundation, Anjanou Ellis, Niecy Nash. I'm sorry, Origin. Thank you. The book is called Caste by Isabella Wilkerson. I'm educated. But if you have not seen Origin, highly recommend. They go really in depth. You still have to see it. They go really in depth about what a caste system is. And so in America, we know the most about color caste. Okay. It's a very real thing. So when we're talking about othering today, that's really a lot of what we're talking about is baby boomers were made to feel othered because of their blackness, and the caste system that said because you have this skin, you are inferior to us, therefore you deserve said treatment. Um, which again is a offshoot of slavery. I realize everything is low key in America, just an offshoot of slavery. They just be figuring out like it's like a marketing tool. Like they just be like, oh, how can we repackage this? Everything, if you look at it close enough, you be like, is this a form of slavery? A little bit. They might pay you a little more now, but it's like it's still some type of like subservient, domineering versus inferiority complex. Anyway, that's what they're growing up under, and that's a lot of what we were talking about if you watched last week's episode in terms of
and
them taking vacations down south and things haven't changed since they kind of grew up in the north, which has their own set of racism, but we won't get into it. That's more economic racism, opportunity, lack of opportunity racism, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and how that shaped them as people.
It's so funny. I went out to lunch yesterday, and I went to the bathroom, and by the time I came back from the bathroom, they had seated the person that I was having lunch with by the bathroom. And
we talked about that last week too.
I felt that thing come up in me like, I would ask for another table if I had been here when they brought us back here, because we talked about that last week about always growing up being always seated by the back of any restaurant that you went into.
This is after integration by, mind you, in the Civil Rights Act.
Yeah, and there's some cultural context around that, which, like I said, we talked about last week. You can go back and hear it. But if you're ever with your grandma, your auntie, somebody older, and they cut up when somebody tries to take them to the back of the restaurant, it's a trauma response, and it's a holdover. And so, we talked about how all those things are a part of our generation and may or may not be a part of yours.
You know it's a part of ours. All right was a song of a generation for a reason. Okay? And so is Nuck If You Buck. All right? You can't tell, like the fact that we have parents that have lived through horrendous, you're just not gonna talk to us crazy. We just not, too many people have fought and died and bled for you to just be talking to us crazy. On the internet at that. Shout out to Princess Penny and Joey Jacoby and all the people responsible for Black Twitter, A People's History, currently streaming on Hulu. I've been watching it today. It's great. And it really talks about sort of what we're talking about, this sort of communal aspect of how Black people will always bond together. They find a way. They talk about that in the digital space. But I think it's relevant to our topic today. They actually talked about the hashtag for Black Girl Magic, and they actually had the woman who, Twitter and the internet is a little bit of a ghost-ridden genre. Shout out to Drake. I'm not. It's ghostwriters. We had to bring it up. Anyway, Black Girl Magic, and they talked to the creator of that and how that hashtag really blew up. And it was the woman who was talking about it was just like, I just felt like it was a need. It was time to like affirm Black women. She was like, at the time on Twitter, I felt like Black women was getting dragged for everything. And I just wanted to like esteem us and let us know that we are magical and that we do dope stuff. And hashtag Black Girl Magic was born, and it took the world by storm, which I think comes out of like, that's pretty much the thing they've been saying about Black Twitter is really just a collected digital footprint of Black culture, pretty much online. Like the things that we would normally have been doing in person, right? We
would have been marching.
In person, we just do on the interwebs. What up, though? Welcome. Hello. I don't know what you were laughing at, but we were saying things. Anyway, so yes, sisterhood is very important for Black women. And all Black people, really. It's about resilience, solidarity. Black people have, part of our Blackness is that we've had a shared history of surviving and continually trying to overcome systemic racism. Okay?
That's our common
common baby
generation to
boomer to
generation
millennial
to
to whatever the
generation
hell was
to
before that
generation.
to
That's the common thing.
that's the common thing. We shall overcome someday. Here go the meme. I mean the what is it? Emoji. Someday. We don't know when that's gonna be. But we just
keep trying.
We just keep passing it down to generation, okay? We affirm each other. You're supposed to be here. Don't let, this world tear you apart. Be great. Be better than great. Like we just always, it's a constant oral tradition of us hyping ourselves up against systemic racism. So, clearly, we've just given like a very short synopsis of the multi-layered, multifaceted challenges of being Black in America. You could ask a Black person anywhere in this world, a lot of things will be the same. Anyway, we are forced to have a important, tight knit community,
yeah,
as a means of survival.
We should,
and this is not, immigrant groups do this all the time. I just want to also reiterate: African Americans are not immigrants. I know that's really popular. Like I've been in spaces where people be like, "And we're all immigrants," and I said, "You might be an immigrant, but I is not no immigrant. Okay, I was stolen, and I don't ever want you to forget that. Don't be trying to loop us all in the same bunch." Anyway, we have to have that, and I think all people groups will give you that, have that, right? But ours has literally been a means of survival, because if we did not take care of each other, I don't know, we'll be here. Like period, point blank period. So obviously the history of landscape amongst Black women and Black people have changed. I mean, colorism, you know what I mean? Like we just have a lot of things going on now. We have sexual spectrums to consider. It's just a lot. Like Black womanhood has really evolved into a lot of other things, and I'm sure Black masculinity has evolved as well. But I'm not trying to tell y'all story for you. And it's just a lot of things: civil rights, feminist waves, these digital spaces. Like we really have a lot of avenues to continue to build community, I think, in ways and spaces that we previous generations did not have. I think I realized watching that Twitter documentary, I'm only on the second episode, that like this civil rights leaders would have killed to have Twitter. Do you understand me? If MLK or Malcolm X was like, "Hey yo, meet me up at the spot," and could just send that out to the internet and just have podcasts and release videos, like, oh my God, like we would be pop, like just so many things. So I think sometimes we take these tools for granted, but they are really, really important, and so many generations prior to us did not have them.
Yeah.
Like y'all might have thought, I mean, I don't think anyone thought they were the only people dealing with lynchings, but you know what I'm saying? They just be like, this is what happens in Mobile. And it's like, nah, bro, it happens in a lot of other places too, right?
And listen,
pick said horrible thing.
Okay? It would have been great,
or good thing. Black doctors, you know what I mean? Like you could have had a whole network of that. The Green Book.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Just like
Twitter
the
before
Green
Twitter.
Book, that was like the paper version of Twitter.
Please explain the Green Book.
So
hold on, let me say this.
Not the movie. I'm not going to talk about it.
That's why I said there was a movie made about this. Shout out to Mahershala Ali for being the greatest of GOAT. But that year, Black Panther should have won an Oscar.
Yeah.
If you've seen that movie, yay for you. You might know a little something about the Green Book. The movie itself, mid. It was not made for our people. Let me just put like that. It was about racial reconciliation. It was
made for another day.
It was about racial reconciliation to make a certain people group feel good about their foolishness. But we'll leave it at that. But go ahead, explain the Green Book for those who may not know.
The Green Book, I remember growing up, whenever we would get ready to take one of said road trips to the South, my dad would have the Green Book. And in the Green Book, it had restaurants where Black people could eat. It had places,
because you can't go everywhere. You can't go everywhere.
Hotels, houses where Black people could spend the night.
Rest peacefully and safely.
It had rest stops. It had towns. It had gas stations. It had all these things in it that said, if you're Black, this is a safe place for you to go or to stop on your trip or to, do whatever it is you need, use the bathroom, whatever it was you needed to
And
do.
if you've seen the magnificent show that was Lovecraft Country, still pulling for that. That's what Uncle George did. Uncle George was one of those Green Book pioneers. He would take trips and do guidebooks and figure out where Black people could stay, that they wouldn't be maimed, murdered, or injured for being there. Somebody had to. Somebody had to take this or disappear or whatever.
And so those kind of organizations, like Jess said, oh my God, if we had Twitter and all those things at that time, but we figured out ways to have space, safe spaces. I always have trouble saying that. Create safe spaces for us to take a stand against the impact of whiteness, to figure out how we were going to survive in the midst of that, to focus on whatever those common goals are. And more recently, to talk about our emotional well-being and mental health. Back in the day, we weren't thinking about no emotional well-being and no mental health. We were just thinking about
I'm trying to survive,
staying alive, pretty much. That was what it was. And so, you had your organizations, you had your NAACP, you had the National Council of Negro Women, you had the Urban League, you had all these different organizations that were created around Blackness, United Negro College, all the things that we had, the sororities, the Divine Nine, the service organizations, the Top Ladies, all these places, the 100 Black Men, these were organizations that we created that were for us, by us, as they say. And it was a sisterhood, on the male side, it was a brotherhood or whatever. Masons and all that stuff were in there too. But for us, it was a way of having a sisterhood, a camaraderie, a place where you knew you could go and sit down and be safe and could talk about those things that were important in Black life. And it would be celebrated. There would be like-minded people there that would try to help you figure out what can we do about it. Yeah. And
always looking for solutions.
Yeah. And so now those contemporary groups are, like we were just watching on the Twitter, the Black Twitter. It's Black Twitter. It's Black Lives Matter. It's Black Girl Magic. It's Girl Trek. If you don't know, Girl Trek is a global movement of Black women leveraging walking. And so their mantra is, you walk 30 minutes a day. It's a radical act of self-love. And it's at the root of a cultural revolution. So around this walking, now this group of women has created a lot of advocacy, social justice work, and whatever they're doing. But it's around the physical and who marched more than we did, right? So now it's taking that marching and turning it into something that's radical for our health. There's the NAP ministry, all these different things that are collective digital organizational spaces that, again, I think that's a example of the generational quote unquote gap, where we did it that way. We did it with tangible organizations and teas and meetings and this, that, and the other. And you guys do it online, like instantly or whatever. But there's a way for the wisdom of the old to mesh with the technology of the new and create an even more powerful and impactful way for us to live and move.
Can I just say something about Girl Trek? But this is where the othering part of it is. So I remember I was watching an interview or something with a girl from Girl Trek, one of the founders, and she was talking about this just grassroots movement of something simple that Black women could do, and they could go walk and take care of their health, because Black women disproportionately suffer from all kinds of things, which we'll also get into a little later.
And the economic disparity of not being able to go to yoga and Pilates and all the things.
And this white girl was like laughing and snickered, like it's Q&A time. And this white girl got up there and she was laughing and snickered, and she was like, walking. Like that's just like the easiest thing that anyone could do. Like why there's so many other forms of exercise. Like there's so many other things that you could do. Like why would they just walk? And they were like, because that's what they can afford to do.
Right.
Number one. And number two, every black woman has, hopefully, God willing, 20 to 30 minutes a day that they can spend on themselves because most of the time they working or taking care of other people. So to just do something small to focus on their self-care is a radical act. But in the other scenario, they had to put it down, shut it down, say why it didn't make sense. It was stupid and it was silly. But again, this is a FUBU situation for us buyers. If we're not talking to you, this doesn't apply to you. And I think that is part of the sisterhood and the community of black culture, period, where we know y'all want to be invited to the cookout. That's how the cookout joke got started. Okay? It's always somebody that's trying to be all up in the Kool-Aid and don't even know the flavor. Okay? Even on Black Twitter, they were like, at some point, all of these big organizations like BuzzFeed and this, that, all of these white traditional news outlets kept picking up what Black Twitter was talking about and being like, well, where is Black Twitter? Do we have to go on
the digital version of the cookout?
blacktwitter.com? Like they thought it was some magical place instead of being like, just check your hashtags and you'll see. Like you don't even know. The culture is right before your eyes. Okay. They were like, yeah, they keep talking about Black Twitter like it's Wakanda. Like just disappear. They was like, is it a portal that we have to enter? Like, nah. So the fact you even asking that, this isn't for you.
Yeah.
And
it's just we have to be intentional. We have to be instrumental about amplifying the voices of black women. We have to find that intersectional place. So we were talking about that today, and I was like, "What is that exactly?" And we were like, "It's everything. It's the female. It's black. It's gender. It's sex. It's
intersectionality.
All the things meet is kind of what that intersectionality means. And then sometimes you have to be careful when you're trying to be intersectional that you don't get overshadowed. And I know that's been a challenge, in some situations where you're trying to be intersectional, but people want to compare their struggle to the struggle of black people in this country. And we know y'all been going through, but it's not the same.
It's also not the same.
We
have compassion. We have empathy. No one's gonna have more compassion for you than black people. But
all of that affects sisterhood. You know what I mean? It affects sisterhood, whether you're sisterhood in your 30s or sisterhood in your 60s or 70s. There's always been a need to rally around someplace where you could connect, where you could be, where you could work, where you could fight, where you could relax, where you could celebrate, where you could be your black self, right? And if that involved fighting for civil rights or standing up for justice or this, that, and the other, at the same time, it involved all the things that make us so unique in terms of that as well.
And I think when you talk about all these organizations and all these spaces, it's not like this is what I love, is the selective amnesia of the dominant culture, to be like, well, there shouldn't be a black church and there shouldn't be HBCUs. And why are there places and spaces that we're not involved in? And I said, because y'all started it. Keep that same energy. Yeah. Why would we need to be creating our own schools and organizations and job opportunities and companies and everything in between? Because y'all made it that way. Y'all act like segregation was our idea. Like we decided to other ourselves. Y'all did the othering, which is why all of these things exist. And so we did talk about that last week in terms of what they were fighting for. Like we were the recipients of, like Gen X, millennials. Some of y'all, the reason why you can go to a school and you one of two black kids is because of the stuff that this generation did, right? And so we talked about just the impact of whiteness just on our upbringing as being like recipients of educational things, learning how to be friends with people of different cultures, where we just be like, we can't talk to our mama that way at our house, but let me just be quiet while I'm over here at your house and you slam the door and cut your mom out. I don't know any of these words. But okay. And some black people actually went home and tried to do that. I don't know that it worked out for you or that you survived. But again, all of this air quote equality or race mixing that everybody was fighting for, we gotta talk about the upsides and the downsides. So we were talking about that a little bit, and that this is also the generation that like grew up in the 50s trying to model and um go after whiteness, but they also was a generation that was like, F all that. We black and we proud. And how did that
We're a little
impact
schizophrenic in that
yeah.
in
And how
that
and how did that
situation.
impact us? And then
Because literally for the first 20 years of our lives, we were trying to fit
chasing
in.
whiteness.
We were trying to assimilate.
Assimilating.
Not even assimilate. And we're going to talk about this in a few minutes, but we were trying to be better because we were taught that in order to succeed, we had to be better than whiteness. We had to be, if they were 100%, we had to be 200. You know what I mean? So all the first 20 years of our life, that's for the most of us, that's what we grew up with. That's what we were striving for. That's what we were struggling to fight against, that pervasive kind of influence of we weren't good enough, and even if we were doing our
An
best,
inferiority complex.
that wasn't good enough. It had to be double or nothing. You know what I'm saying? It had to be above and beyond. And then in the 70s, the flips, the script,
60s and 70s.
Yeah, 60s and 70s, but it started in the 60s. But by the 70s, we turned the tables over. It was like, no, we're not doing that, and we're doing this, and we're doing that. And so we talked about last week kind of throwing the baby out with the bathwater in some instances where there were some of those things that we probably could have kept and could have used a little bit more, a more strongly imparted with some tweaks and adjustments. But it was the 70s. People were smoking a lot of dope and doing a lot of things and fighting the powers that be. So yeah,
and
changed.
I'm an 80s baby. I grew up in Reaganomics, and then they introduced crack to our community, and nothing was the same.
Yep.
Shout out to that.
I mean, it was funny. I was reading something this week where Zendaya was talking about this. Can you imagine Zendaya, who's
Absolutely.
in the, whatever generation she's in? What is that, an alpha, a thing, or whatever? But for her to be talking about having to be 200% better to be accepted.
We were watching an interview on Blavity that was a press junket for the movie Challengers, which we have not seen. But in it, they were talking about that her character in that movie, who I guess is this really great tennis star, she has this injury, and then she ends up really coaching two white boys how to be great at what she was already skilled at. Anyway, but they were saying that they felt like the character was a representation of what we're talking about in blackness, of being like, you have to be twice as good, you have to work twice as hard to get half as much, right? You're really the genius here, but you got to train up these white men to do it because you have an injury and you can't do it no more. So Zendaya was saying like, oh, thank you so much for saying that, again, by a black journalist who asked these questions. There we go. Black outlet. Having to build that up ourselves because nobody else was going to ask those questions. And Zendaya was saying that she
felt that in her real life
all the time.
Yeah.
From Casey Undercover to all the daggone songs she done put out, to every red carpet she done slayed, to all the movies, gross millions of billions of dollars, Euphoria, all of it.
And let's just put a pin in that when we're talking about red carpet, because another part
shout out to Law
of what was on trending this week about Zendaya was about her stylist, Law. And if y'all know Law don't play. And Law said
what needed to be done.
He said there are 5 designers, and he named them specifically, who would not style Zendaya when she first started out, because she wasn't on brand, she was too green, she was too whatever all the words are.
Too hooded from the Bay,
she
was whatever.
Smelled like patchouli and whatever.
That was later.
But anyway, and Law said, with
all the muster of the ancestors,
if it's a no now, it's a no forever. If you don't style her now, when she blows up and becomes big and famous,
don't come back over
do
here.
not come back over here because we're not going to
Work with you
at
all.
And he said there are, I think one of the designers they have come around with, but 3 or 4 of them, she has never ever worn them on the red carpet, and because he promised that they would. I'm sorry, that's sisterhood to me. That's a form of sisterhood. That's cross generational. It's all the things, but it's intersection. It's all the things. It's the intersectional. It's everything, because that is how we have to empower ourselves and make sure that we take good care of each other.
Always stay gracious. Best revenge is your paper.
Yeah.
The Queen taught us. And to believe in themselves that much. Because at that time, Zendaya was fresh off the Disney show. She hadn't really done Euphoria, none of that. She was just, they would just show up freshly dressed.
From Law's Vintage Shop.
From wherever they can find.
And wherever his 200% creativity laid things out for her.
And they would go down and they would show the red carpet. They weren't even invited to these events. They would just crash red carpets, take the best pictures, slay, and go home. And Zendaya began to build her brand because she became a person that people wanted to see on the red carpets. Honestly. So again, that's inventiveness, that's creativity, that's
economic empowerment. That's all the things we're talking about that are important if you're going to what do I want to say? You want to build up a sisterhood. I don't want to talk about the negative sisterhood things. I don't want to talk about the Real Housewives. I don't want to talk about the throwing drinks in the people's faces and all the things like that. But if you're going to use sisterhood, could we please use it for good? Could we use it for good? That's all I'm saying.
And not to say that those things don't happen, but also those are reality shows and things are orchestrated to produce a certain result.
But I think even though it's orchestrated to produce a certain result, for those people who do not know any better and do not have any older black women
friends
speaking into their life, this becomes the culture that they think is what black women are and what black women should be. And if we are not careful, that will get perpetuated past what...
It's already perpetuated past.
What it should be.
It's already perpetuated past.
That's just my 2 cents.
And you, again, on the Create Generational Wellness journey, you get to decide if you want to participate in that kind of interpretation of black womanhood or not. We're just saying, based on what we're doing over here and the people we associate with, we're not on that team.
And the people that we want you to associate with and the way we want you to live your life. I'm going to just say it like that. If you are going to be well, if you are going to have wellness in your mind, in your body, in your soul, in your spirit, that's all we're trying to do.
Wellness and strife have a hard time existing together.
Listen.
They have a hard time. Wellness and strife have a hard time existing together. And if you are around anybody really that's doing that, we would suggest that you listen or watch previous episodes and start to make the necessary changes.
Executive decisions. Amen,
to
God.
do it. Yeah, man. So I don't know. Bet on yourself. Yes. Bet on the homies. Always. Know that, here's what the white lash will always come. I hate to say it like that, but as I was watching that Twitter doc, I said, it doesn't matter how high we get, how great we get, how much money we get, how out of this world, how much they steal from us. They get everything in culture comes from black people, black women, black gay men, pick a thing, right? Our sports,
music,
anything. We make it create culture. That has been black people's currency and usefulness in this culture. Once they figured out they can no longer use us for manual labor, and brought in some other people to do that. And shout out to y'all. Do you? Hello. Get it how you live, Pam. Ain't nobody hating. That being said, there are some things we want to leave you with. In regards to just
what are our common goals?
Black women.
What can we do together? How can
black women and this collective sisterhood, right? and fighting against
That
the
closes the generational gap.
othering. We always looking for equity, justice, to be empowered in the right ways. I think sometimes we be taking the empowerment a little too far. Um, Racial segregation, period, is just trash. I know we talk about white people a lot, but it's not. We're really talking about a power structure, not individuals.
Not individual people.
Now, if you subscribe to said power structure, we are talking to you. Okay. But it's really, everybody's like, just the content of your character. If you ascribe with that power structure, we are talking to you. I don't want to.
If you out here trying to make America great again,
if you out here with Donnie and the homies, if you out here grabbing genitals and, all lives mattering, we're talking to you 100%. Okay. And we have time for the smoke all day, every day, all the time. Anyway, that's not what it's about. Also, we got to deal with our own racial biases, where we've ingested the inferiority complexes or racial struggles within the Black community. Colorism is still very much a thing. I don't believe it on anything but pancakes, but I have been the victim of it, and I have, thought about it and whatever. Especially because we tend to have like light skin, dark skin worlds on Twitter. It's all like in the internet, but it's all like in fun. You know what I'm saying? But sometimes it gets real, like in the beef. It got really real in the beef between Kendrick and Drake. I think we're still processing. There's a lot we're processing, but I'm just talking about in terms of the colorism part of it. It was kind of a lot. Anyway, so we're still working on that. I'm just saying, we're still working on that. Because again, that's not something that comes from us. That's something that was given to us that we continue to perpetuate. Just saying.
And we can stop.
Everything about colorism again is the light skin. If there's a light skin, dark skin color spectrum, that is directly attached to whiteness. It's in relation to whiteness. If you go to Africa, it's all kind of different people. They over here. You light skin, you dark. Not really. Okay. And in Africa, that's led to some real stuff. Okay. We don't. God bless Rwanda. But you know what I'm saying? When other people come in and they start,
that wasn't color.
They was othering each other.
Yeah.
Okay. And they all Africans. But again, I think that was some other powers that be, some colonial resources and et cetera, et cetera. We have to advocate for each other's not just mental health. I know we talk about mental, emotional health all the time, but also physical health. Okay. We see that if we take a historical Henrietta Lacks. If y'all don't know Henrietta Lacks, I forgot what that movie is. It the Henrietta Lacks story? Probably. There's a book and then there's a movie that Oprah did. But Henrietta Lacks was a Black woman who went in for some routine doctor's appointments, and we don't have to get into the history of how much Black women have been experimented on in American medicine. But there's that. And Henrietta Lacks is an example. They were actually taking her cells from her, unbeknownst to her, and running experiments on it. And her cells have been part of many, many, many modern medicinal breakthroughs. And
I'm just going to say, you can Google Henrietta Lacks and you will find all the things.
And her family has not received a dime for her being a part of medical miracles and breakthroughs.
They might got little.
They might got some coin now. They might,
Everybody trying to make.
They try to make restoration. And then we have, very simple things that affect Black women specifically, right? Black women have the highest maternal mortality rate in the United States, 69.9 per 100,000 live births from 2021. That's almost 3 times the rate for white women, according to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. Black women are also in the U.S. are also 3 times more likely to die during pregnancy or delivery than any other race. And again, we're not going to get into a whole full history lesson because this is just a topic in and of itself. But, advocate for your sisters in the medicinal space, okay? Because there are still, and again, we have to give a baby lesson, okay? In slavery, when you don't own your body, people can do whatever they want to it, even though that's just like it's a construct. Of course, you didn't own your body, okay? So a lot of our modern medicinal things, when it comes to gynecology, came at the hands of some white man whose name I can't remember, and we shall call Voldemort, who was literally experimenting on Black women. in Alabama, to get many of the tools that we have in reproductive health. So I actually read an article, a very disturbing article about two sisters in Alabama today, on the Associated Press, where I got some of that information, about their treatment and how they were treated. They were both treated at the same hospital. Um, One, the older sister, and then I think the younger sister a couple years later, but they were both like, they both almost died. One of them had a sepsis that was untreated. The other one was like vomiting and had some disease I had never heard of in pregnancy. But they didn't receive proper care and almost died. And there's a lot of things in healthcare that medical professionals still believe about Black people that we just haven't done the work to debunk, such as we have less sensitive nerve endings, thicker
We're just
skin,
stronger. We can
thicker
take
skin,
it.
stronger bones.
That
So
doesn't really hurt.
yeah, they just don't believe that our pain level is actually what it is. They think that we're saying it's hurting, but they're like, oh, but they're super strong. Like they can
Listen,
take
I
it.
had
They
this
can
happen
get
to
through
me
it.
during COVID. Me and your dad both had COVID at the same time. They gave your dad medicine for COVID. Like whatever that 5-day thing was, they didn't give me that. They were just
Z-Pack, CPAC.
yeah, it was whatever it was before it got to be the Plavin, whatever it's called. But anyway, we go to the same doctor, and he gave him medication that he did not give me, and I was like, "What is up with this?" You know what I'm saying?
But
And you have to say something about it. I'm like, "Why you give him the medicine and you didn't give it to me?"
it's a long-standing rule.
Oh.
So, saying all that to say, in the spirit of sisterhood and otherness, if you know someone, any type of medical things, right? I have friends all the time who are like, "Did you get a checkup? Did you do this?" But as I was reading these articles today, I realized I actually do have a fear of medical departments and medical
You
people.
say
Like,
it all the time.
I'd be like, I just don't want you in my. I know it's probably for the best, but my friends be like, why don't you go get checkups more? I'm like, bro, once you start, once you let them in there, it's whatever. Once they start poking you and doing all that, like Tuskegee's not a real thing. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is a real thing, so it's something I'm working on. But anyway, click up and go to the doctors together. Like, really advocate for each other in those spaces, or just be on some wellness stuff.
And
Black people, we've always healed ourselves through unconventional means because we've had to. Okay.
and talk about health issues. Like if I'm finding as we get older, my generation, we are talking about things that are happening to us as we get older. That
their
if
body.
you are isolated, you think
not a
this is just
community.
happening to you.
Facts.
So be in a community, be in a sisterhood, be in a space where you could talk about the changes that are happening in your body. Again, whether you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, whatever it is, don't let somebody punk you with whatever they told you at your doctor when somebody might have a better doctor.
Correct.
And there's more information. And you know what I'm saying? The internet. They might have been able to
Don't be going on WebMD though, because you will.
I know,
like,
but
I'm dying.
You know what I'm
literally
saying? But you can ask questions.
I hear what you're saying.
Yes.
In the space of we're talking about sisterhood and communal Black spaces, there are people who write articles about these things or blogs or whatever. You have the resource.
Black women who are
Black
writing.
women who are going through all kinds of things that, again, you have the internet at your fingertips. So there's probably a digital imprint for whatever that thing is that your doctor is saying. Ignore it. It's not that big of a deal, et cetera, et cetera. Only for you to find out it's definitely a thing and I almost died. Okay? That woman almost died giving birth to her baby. She coded and all of that. Next up, be in solidarity about your paper and your coin. Always stay gracious. Best revenge is your paper. Okay. Economic disparity is crazy. I read this today and it kind of shocked me. Nationally, Black women earned 63.7 cents for every dollar earned by a white man.
40 cents cheaper.
The pay disparity between Black women and white men working full-time, part-time, year-round, and even part of the year. It don't matter. Any of the spectrum, any kind of work you're doing is going to vary by state to state, but it's definitely going to be lower. Okay. The headline for this article read, Black women earn less than white men in every state and will not reach every state, all 50 of them, and will not reach pay equity with the white men until what, 44. What is that? I don't even know how to say that. It's 2100.
2144, like
2144.
2024. Yeah.
I was like, I didn't
That's
know.
100 years. Oh, like.
And they ain't gonna catch up because by then they don't move the goalposts. Yet again, it's gonna be some more monies. We're 100 years behind in pay for doing the exact same. Well, you heard it. If you work year round, part time,
That's why I was so
some of the
upset
time,
today.
full time, all the time, every time, you're still not gonna make as much. And that is systemic racism. Okay, it's designed for it to be like that. Okay, so this is for all the entrepreneurs. If you corporate, whatever it is that you're doing, don't be the other black girl in the office. Sorry for that show being canceled, by the way, on Hulu. Don't be the other black girl beefing with the other black girl. Y'all need to be clicked up. Black men, this for you too. Okay? They love to see us divide and conquer. But if we click up, okay, make sure you get your coin. Because it's not just about you living well. If you having families and doing things, you want to make sure you can take care of your people. Okay? Again, what I say, they're always just repackaging slavery. That's some slavery shit. Okay, they're paying you a little bit, but it's still not as much so you can catch up with them unless you ball out and do something crazy. So just take care of each other when it comes to health and pay specifically. And pay helps with your health. Okay, because if you can pay for it,
that's a word
in this country, or as we know with France, and this is our German white friend, okay, who had to leave the States to get said treatment that they needed in Europe. That comes with money.
For a fraction.
For a fraction
of what it costs here.
Damn near a bargain. Still. More than half. Okay? So
listen, I'm just saying this right now in terms of I changed insurance carriers at the beginning of this year.
You gotta be careful with that, by the way.
And I don't remember the reason why I changed. It was, I don't know, it was something weird, but it wasn't that big of a deal. But I was like, oh, well, for $19, and it was going to be a $19 premium as opposed to a $0 premium a month. So now I have to pay $19 a month instead of nothing that I paid all last year. And we changed for a really simple reason. It wasn't any big deal. I don't know. Yeah, it was like, this isn't covered, but if you pay this $19, it will be, or the dental or something like that. If I tell you, I've been having physical therapy since I had my knee replaced in January 2023. And if you've been following us for a long time,
that's when we started.
That's when we started. If I tell you the level of improvement in my new physical therapy office as opposed to the last one that I've been going to for the last 18 months, it is like night and day for $19, which again
is a stretch for some.
Is not a lot of money, but for some people that makes the difference between having really quality health
that
care
could literally save your life
versus I cannot tell you how much better I'm walking in 6 weeks than I walked all last year going to that other physical therapy office. So
because I'm here America, to say cash rules everything around.
I'm here to say, like she said, the money will help improve your physical health at the end of the day, and we all know that.
Period. And then we got to take care of ourselves emotionally,
because all these things we just talked about, all these things we just talked about will have you
every day.
Yeah,
every day if you dwell on it.
Listen, it'll take and it will have an effect on your emotional well-being and your mental health. Okay. And 50 years ago, that wasn't a luxury that most black people had time to think about. But we do now.
And I don't even know if it's a luxury. It's much just a basic human right.
Yeah, but we didn't even know that was a basic human right.
You have a right to feel good about yourself, about your life, about your health, about your family, about your money, about all the things. It's just basic human stuff we talk about. This ain't pie in the sky, but it feels like that because of systemic racism. Because when you create a whole system to keep a whole group of people down forever, when they start to rise and come up in ways that like you enjoy all the time, they feel very normal, very regular for you. But for those of us who are under this system, it's a little different. It feels like a luxury, but it's not. It's just regular, basic, standard living we're talking about. It's not even luxurious. It's just normal.
We shouldn't have to go through historical trauma. We should not have to go through
Correct.
the legacy of slavery and ongoing violence, and how does that intersect, and how do we feel about that, and how do we get over it, and how do we fight back against it, and how do we click up against. We shouldn't have to think about all that. So that's another level of stress. It's contemporary
On top of whatever your
stressors,
personal life, personal stressors, blah, blah, blah.
that other extra layer all the time. And it contributes to higher rates of anxiety, depression, and other mental health challenges, which if you don't have good insurance, you can't do nothing about. Or if you don't have people say all the time, I want to go to therapy. I don't know that I can afford it. Thank God there's all these things out now. BetterHelp, Black Girl Therapy, all these things where you can get some sliding scale help. But think about your mom, your grandmom, your great auntie. You know that one that was crazy all the time? That probably really was crazy all the time, but nobody.
Also, might have just needed some help.
Yeah, just needed to be able to talk through some stuff that could have been helped by having, the resources available. So,
correct.
Listen, there's a lot of information out there all the time.
All the time.
And it's great to take it in, but sometimes it can contribute to being overwhelmed. It can
Exhibit A.
It contribute to being overwhelmed.
I don't mean to bust her out, but it's a Truthful Chat. Exhibit A.
So you got to figure out what's good. What can you do? What can you not do? What is really essential to push us on this positive trajectory of well-being as an African American woman? How much is the treadmill of I got to do this versus I don't have to do anything? Where is the middle, not the bottom? Where is the middle? Where is the place that
for you
say I'm doing this and that, and it's well balanced and whatever, and because we are African American in this kind of a space, America, that's the space that I mean,
and the world,
and the world,
America is our experience.
There's just there's some particular ways that we have to approach this. Correct. And maybe it could be another way, but maybe not.
We're just here doing our small part. And we're not trying to depress anybody or make them feel bad. It's a Truthful Chat. We're here being honest about the things that we've experienced, the things that we know, the things that we've heard, and what's really for real going on out here, because it's important. And
I'm glad though that there has been a growing emphasis on mental health awareness, I would say, over the last 10 years. That has really
for sure
helped pave the way for better visibility and support for Black women and what their needs are. There have been a lot of grassroots movements, like I said, about Girl Trade, NAPMIT, all these different things and community initiative that have fostered spaces where healing is great. Self-care can take place. Collective. Remember this, I never thought about this, but we went to an all-Black yoga studio. And
we talked about that on here.
It was really great. But you never think about the fact that if you're the only Black woman
in a space
of all white women doing yoga,
annoying a little. Unless that show, it's always one that loves
you wouldn't think about that it should be different or it should be hard for you. But for some Black women, it is. It's hard to close your eyes and relax in a room full of people that are others, that are not. So
because in her community you are.
I didn't even realize it until we went to the yoga space.
Your body shape.
My whole body went like, oh my gosh, I never thought about this before. But again, how do we make it better? What are the things that are crucial to look at so that we have a more equitable and inclusive future that celebrates who we are and helps us connect as generational differences and whatever. And there's company called Delete the Divide, and I love the name of that because that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to delete that divide that exists between the different generations, the different, like you said, the intersectionality places, and get to a place where, we advance our sisterhood, we advance the wellness of African American women, and we advance creating generational wellness.
And for that, you must have safe spaces. I was actually having a conversation with a friend about this earlier. Like, Black bodies in predominantly white spaces is deep, deep ancestral trauma sometimes because it brings up a lot of things. Depending on the situation, who you're around, this, that, and the third. We was talking about partying and drinking with certain said people. And I was like, I don't do it. I don't believe in it. I was like, there's too much that can go awry. There's too much that can go wrong. Okay. And so, you know, I wouldn't call it segregationist, but I am advocating for you being around your own people group that makes you feel comfortable. Now, if that makes me a segregationist,
if that's your definition,
then sure. I think I'm somewhere in the spectrum of that. But what we're saying is this space, other podcasts and places like this, these are us really doing some FUBU. Honestly, it's really us doing some for us, by us, self-care, and providing spaces that have really kept us afloat in a country, in a space and time continually that proves to be unsafe. Or just when you think you in, like everything good, they flip it on you. You dig what I'm talking about? So the more that we can, again, click up, rally around each other.
And
I know feminism is all the rise, but black femininity and black feminism is a whole other
I think
situation.
we have to, like, we talked about economic disparity, but we have to think about the things that make for economic stability. What does that look like?
Correct.
What does
We
that
still
look
haven't
like
got our
in
group
terms
economics
of
together.
affordable housing or entrepreneurship opportunities or educational programs or financial literacy programs? We just had a financial literacy program at our church a couple weeks ago. 65 people came out on
the land and the money.
I don't know what night it was, but it was on an odd night. You know what I'm
like
saying?
A Tuesday.
A Tuesday. People are trying to figure this out. And I think the fact that we are having conversations about figuring it out now, and there's education and there's advocacy for it, and there's school curriculum trainings, and there's some diversity training in workplaces. But find you a support network. Find some mental health resources. Find some economic empowerment if that's what you need. Find some financial literacy. It may be cross gender, but sometimes it may be good that it is sister to sister. You know what I mean? Right. Sometimes there are some things that we can say as women that to one another that are the most important things for us to hear at that time, and can just be transformative and get you to a place where you like. This is the thing I think is always so beautiful when you have those conversations and you're in those spaces, when you realize I didn't even know that I didn't know that. Like when you find something where you go, I didn't even realize I didn't know that. And now I'm on a trajectory to learn more about something I had no idea even existed.
That's the beauty of community.
Yep.
At the end of the day.
Community and closing generational gaps, hopefully.
Sure, closing generational gaps.
Yep.
And I feel like to say this. We're not asking you to do something that's not already in your blood and in your DNA. Black women been surviving since the first one got off the boat. Okay? In any situation,
since the first one got on the boat and got over,
got on and got off. Okay, we're stolen and brought here. Okay, so this ain't. It's not really rocket science. It's already something we ancestrally know. Our people have been doing it forever, and will continue to do it forever. Okay, we're just trying to add some components and layer in the cake, so that because now we have access and information. To all of these things, you know what I mean? So much of it was us being inventive and creating things because there were spaces we couldn't be in. But now we have access to things, more or less, that we should take advantage of and do more to support each other collectively, to get some things going, not just for ourselves, but the generations coming after us. because people did it for us. We wouldn't be sitting here. We wouldn't be talking to you. Y'all wouldn't be listening. We wouldn't be watching, interacting, and even having a space to be talking about what it means to create generational wellness if it was not for the blood, sweat, tears, and great, immense, impeccable shoulders of the people that came before us that we stand on. Yeah. So there's a lot to do. There's always a lot to do on yourself, on the people around you, in the culture. Dismantling systemic inequity is the Thanos of Thanos. Okay. There's other things, but we talk about that, right? It's the Thanos of Thanos. But I do believe that we could create a more equitable, inclusive society for African American women and individuals collectively across all the generations, okay? For all the peoples. But I will say this: if you start with Black women, a lot of your problems will be resolved.
Noah told you that.
Trevor Noah said that. Trevor Noah said that before he left the show. He said, y'all need to talk to Black women because Black women got to figure it out. And you see that Black man's life he's been thriving in abundance ever since. He's been going on trips with the homies.
Before that.
The comedy shows is up. I'm just saying. Anyway, thank y'all so much for being with us. That was a lengthy, extensive talk. But I hope that it helped. I hope you heard something that resonates with you. I hope you're not depressed. You should not leave this depressed. What you should do is call your homegirl or your homeboy right now and talk about
and
some
go
of the
out.
things you heard.
Because we about to go out.
And figure out, strategize. Tap in with God, tap in with the ancestors and figure out what you're going to do next.
I just told her I need a sit down dinner conversation. I told her I need you to be my sister tonight. I do not need you to be my daughter.
We'll see how it goes.
I do not need you to be my.
She should call one of her homegirls.
Nope.
Anyway, we hope you'll come back and join us next week. You ain't gonna know what's going on, as I always say about this time. If you are not subscribed, following, liking, we are at Create Generational Wellness on all the platforms. So check us out. Before we go, speaking of Twitter, I want to shout out the homie. You see this? Blood at the Root by Ladarian Williams. No relation. Even though I don't know that that's true. I actually we haven't investigated. We should investigate this. Anyway, I want to shout out Ladarian Williams, my homeboy, for
who's a New York Times bestseller on the list.
Okay. Who started from Twitter, actually.
He's on Good Morning America today.
From Twitter. And he sent out a tweet that said something to the effect of, wouldn't it be cool if Hogwarts or Harry Potter was at a HBCU learning how to do magic? And Black Twitter said, hell yeah, we want to see that. And thus, this book has been born. So this is a young adult book, but everybody can read it. I'm pretty positive I'm starting this tonight. I need fantasy. I need to get away from the world. So anyway, if you are a young person or somebody you know, go get Blood at the Root. Buy it for yourself. Buy it for some other folks.
What's the name of the university?
Let's support each other, man.
Yes. Cayman Admission.
There's an acceptance letter on the back cover. Okay, so get it. Have your kids read. You need to read. We all need to read. And we all need to support each other because this book was born from Black Twitter and Ladarian's imagination. And this is the first book. Okay? He got more heat in
You should follow him on Instagram.
He's at Ladarian Williams.
At Ladarian Williams.
On all the things.
Did you see he had a post today about talking to 17-year-old Ladarian.
Oh yeah.
And he was like, if I was talking to 17-year-old Ladarian today, I would tell him this. Man, I said, oh no, I'm not going to be crying. I'm not going to be crying over here, but
great.
It's great.
Okay, it's great for all the stress, strain, and struggle to see somebody that you know been doing the work and been out here putting in work coming to their harvest time. See all the seeds sprouting up abundantly. So I wanted to shout him out. Okay. With that, we'll leave you.
We'll see y'all next week.
We'll see you next week. And Black girl magic. Okay, that's really what we with. Be Black girl magic. Be Black boy joy and Black boy magic. Okay, in the spirit of magic. Okay, go out there and be magical. Period. All right. Bye.
Bye.